I repeat, am I audible? Okay, good. So in our last class, that is almost a week back, we have discussed about a few multiplexing techniques. So in this class, we are going to continue that topic. So before continuing, let me just revise those concepts. Okay. So in last class, we have saw about what is multiplexing and what are the different types of multiplexing. Okay. So as you can see on these diagrams, I won't take much time on these revision. Okay. So just pay attention. So as you can see in the diagram, the first diagram on the right side, this one. So a multiplexing techniques allows multiple inputs to go through a single communication link. Okay. So you are going to separate your link into multiple channels. So the channels can be with respect to frequency or with respect to wavelength or with respect to time. So by sharing a single communication link, that is one medium among n number of communication, that means m number of input users or systems and n number of output users of the systems, you are going to make sure that you are efficiently using the medium. Okay. So normally if you take any normal communication, maybe you may be generating like a few kbs or few mbs of data from your mobile, but from one cell tower to another cell tower, all the mobiles in that cell tower region must be carried through the communication medium, so whatever they are using in between one tower and another tower. Okay. Or one tower and the base station, so that medium must be having more bandwidth compared to the bandwidth provided to each and every cell user. So normally they are going to use optical fibers, and they are going to combine signals from like hundreds of users in one cell tower region, and they are going to send them through this optical fiber, let's say, which is having more bandwidth. And at the base station, they are going to separate them together. They are going to separate them individually, and they are going to forward them to the corresponding receivers. Okay. So that is one thing. So that's how they are achieving, how they are using this particular multiplexing techniques to their advantage. So as I said, the multiplexing techniques can be having different ways of doing it. So one is frequency division multiplexing, where you are going to divide the medium with respect to frequency. Another one is wavelength division multiplexing. So theoretically it may be separate, but actually these both are same. So frequency division multiplexing or wavelength division multiplexing, both are almost same. As you can see, frequency and wavelength are just inverse representation of same parameter. So more frequency means less wavelength, less frequency means more wavelength. Apart from that, there is no difference between those two parameters, but the way of implementation is a little bit different. On which medium we are going to use these multiplexing techniques are going to tell you whether it is a frequency division multiplexing or a wavelength division multiplexing. And the last one is sharing that medium with respect to time, that is time division multiplexing. So we are going to discuss about time division multiplexing in this particular class. So first, let me go through these frequency division multiplexing and wavelength division multiplexing as quickly as possible. Okay. So frequency division multiplexing, as you can see, the medium is divided into channels where the channels are parallel. Okay. So at a time, if you have three users on the both side, three users are going to communicate simultaneously through these medium by dividing the medium into channels. So I gave you one good example, that is the FM radios. So if you take FM radios, all are using the same frequency range in their beginning. That means when three people or three radio jockeys are communicating, when three radio jockeys are speaking, what they will do is all those people will speak in, let's say, 0 to 20 kilohertz frequency. But what you are doing is you are moving one person to 93.5 megahertz, another person to 98.3 megahertz, and the third person to 102.1 megahertz. Okay, so by moving them to higher frequencies by using a technique called modulation, you are going to separate this medium into these three channels. So channel 1 will be 93.5, channel 2 will be 98.3, channel 3 will be 102.1 megahertz. So like this, you are going to separate the medium with respect to channels, and you are going to share them to different users so that they can communicate simultaneously without any worry. Okay, so that is the basic working of this frequency division multiplexing, and this is how the multiplexer will work. That is the input side device, the multiplexer, which is shortly called as MUX, is going to work like this. So these three people are generating signals in the same frequency range, that is, let's say, 0 to 20 kilohertz. Now you are using 93.5 here, 98.3 here, and 102.1 here as your carrier signals, and you are going to modulate your low frequency signal by using this carrier signal into like this. Okay, and this second one is like this, and the third one is like this, and you are going to simply transmit them, where when they move to the same medium, they are going to combine. There is no need to use another device to combine. So the physical nature of these signals is, when these three signals are transmitted using the same medium, they are going to combine with one another. Okay, so you are going to get a composite signal like this, which which is received by each and every FM radio in that range. Okay, so a FM radio will receive all the signals, all the three signals. Let's say your FM radio is this one, the top one. So what you did is you tuned to 93.5 channel. Okay, so the first frequency F1. So to tune that, you are using something called tuner, okay, in normal terms, but in electronic terms, you can say the tuner is nothing but a filter which will filter out all the remaining frequencies. When you tune to 93.5, you are keeping your filter to 93.5 so that all the other frequencies will be removed. So what you will get is, from this composite signal, you will be only getting this signal. When you put your tuner to 98.3, your filter to 98.3, you are going to only get this signal. You are going to remove this and this. When you tune your filter to 102.1, let's say, so you are going to only get this signal. You are going to remove these two signals from this composite signal. So like that, you will get the modulated version of your intended station's signal. So you are going to demodulate it into the corresponding actual original signal. So as you can see here, a demodulator which is also fed with the same frequency which is used on the sender side. So 93.5 here, 98.3 here, and 102.1. So it is going to do the reverse operation. So whatever you have done to get this signal from this actual original signal, you are going to do the reverse operation so that you will get the original signal from the filtered received signal. Okay, so this is the demux operation. Okay, that is on the demultiplexing side. So we have discussed a few problems, so you better recollect these problems. So I'm going to share this PPT immediately after the class. So the quiz will be open. So before attempting the quiz, I will tell you to go through this PPT one more time and go through these problems. I don't want to spend more time on these problems again, so that you will just recollect whatever I have discussed in my last class. Okay, so just go through this PPT and understand these problems, what is happening here. So from this figure, I'm going to give you a small view into this. So you have five signals which is having a bandwidth of 100 kilohertz. That means, like in our previous example, in radio jockeys are going to generate free hertz from 0 to 20 kilohertz. Here the signal is from let's say 0 to 100, each is 0 to 100 actually, but you are going to send them using the same medium, so you are going to share them. So to share them, how much bandwidth is needed for your entire medium? So you have 5 signals. These 5 signals must be separated with a 10 kilohertz gap between them so that they will not overlap with one another. Okay, so you need 5 into 100 plus 4 into 4 gaps, that means 410. So total 540 kilohertz of bandwidth for your composite signal medium. So that is this question, and this one is another such question where they ask you to design a transmission configuration. Okay, so which that means nothing but find out the L value given the uh, all the required parameters. Okay, so that is about the frequency division multiplexing. Now coming to the wavelength division multiplexing. So wavelength division multiplexing is also same as frequency division multiplexing. So as you can remember, uh, this is nothing but f1, f2, f3 only. Lambda 1 means wavelength 1. So lambda 1 is equal to 1 by f1. Lambda 2 is equal to 1 by f2. Lambda 3 is equal to 1 by f3. So you are combining 3 frequencies together and you are sending those 3 frequencies using the same medium. On the receiving side, you are separating those frequencies. So this is literally same as frequency division multiplexing, but the thing is where you are using this entire technique is different. So the previous technique, that is the frequency division multiplexing, FDM, is suitable for electrical and electromagnetic signals. So when you are using electrical or electromagnetic signals as your communication signals, then you can go with FDM. But when you are using light waves, which are actually a high frequency signals in the same spectrum, then you are going to use WDM. So what is different is which devices you are using on the multiplexing and demultiplexing side. So these devices are very simple devices compared to our FDM, frequency division multiplexers, MUX and DMUX. So the easiest, the simplest wavelength division multiplexer and demultiplexer are a prism. So if you pass white light normally through a prism, you will get Vibgea. Sir, no, this is what you may have performed in your physics lab, either in your intermediate or in your first year. At our time, we have this experiment on both intermediate and first engineering first year. Now I don't know whether you performed it or not. So when you pass a white light through a prism, you are going to get the 7 colors, that is nothing but a rainbow from this side. So this will be containing these rainbow colors. So that is because how different wavelengths will refract differently when moved through different densities. Okay, when the signal goes through a low density to high density material, they are going to refract, that we already know. So the refraction angle depends on this wavelength. So that we are going to use for our advantage. So we are going to do the reverse of this. So you are going to take 3 wavelengths. So this VIB, violet, indigo, blue, green, yellow, orange, red, all these things are 7 wavelengths. you are not just going to get these 7 wavelengths, you are actually going to get infinite wavelengths, where in that infinite wavelengths, see, these 7 are visible and highlighted. Okay, there will be in between shades also, but you are not normally concentrating on those shades. So they are containing infinite wavelengths. So what you are going to do is, you are going to take n number of wavelengths. In this example, 3 different wavelengths, and you are going to impose them in different angles onto this prism, that is nothing but the multiplexer, in a way that when they come out of the other side of this prism, they will be combined and looks like a single light beam. So you are going to transfer this single light beam using fiber optics cable. Okay, so on the other side you need to separate it. So what you are going to do is, with whatever angle it came out of this prism, you are going to impose with the same angle, so that the signal will be refracted back, and you will going to separate this lambda 1, lambda 2, lambda 3 on the other side. So this is the multiplexing and demultiplexing in wavelength division multiplex. Okay, so that is about WDM. So now in this class, I'm going to discuss about time division multiplexing. So time division multiplexing, as you can see on this diagram, the medium is not actually shared like our frequency division multiplexing. Just give me a minute. In our frequency division multiplexing, we divided our medium with respect to frequency. So 93.5, 98.3, 102.1. So as you can see, at any time, if you look inside the medium, you are going to get the signals of user 1, user 2, user 3, signal 1, signal 2, signal 3. All these 3 things are going to visible to you. Just give me a minute. Even though I have mentioned the same thing again and again and again in your sessions, some of you are not joining with audio. If you are not joining with audio, you will not be hearing any of the things I'm saying. And if you are not using the names properly as mentioned, okay, so you should be following the format that is already mentioned to you. Your register number followed by space followed by your name, so that we can provide you attendance properly. Okay, if you are not getting attendance, mostly the reason will be the way of the names you are showing. Okay, you are putting in this, so make sure that you will use your names properly, and you join with your audio. Here once CS of 2 sections, once note down these numbers and intimate them that they must join with audio. Otherwise I will note down these things, and I am going to pass these numbers to the HOD. I observe these students are keep on doing the same thing in each and every class. What's the use of attending the class? Okay, anyhow, so let's come back to the topic. So in FDM, as I shown here, in FDM you are going to share the medium parallelly, but in time division multiplexing you are not going to share the medium parallelly. Instead of that, you are going to share the medium with respect to time. So as you can see on this diagram, there are 4 users who are communicating with 4 other users. They may not be in the same order, but remember, but just for understanding purpose, we use the same order. So this user on the left side, which is numbered 1, is communicating with the user on the right side, which is numbered 1. So this 2 is communicating with 2. Okay, 3 is communicating with, so 1 is communicating with 1, 2 is communicating with 2, 3 is communicating with 3, 4 is communicating with 4. But remember, they are communicating continuously. So this user 1 is generating, let's say, 10 bits per second for user 2. So user 2 must receive 10 bits per second. Okay, this user 1, receiver 1. Let's say S1, R1. So when S1 sends 10 bits per second, R1 expects 10 bits per second. In the same way, let's say all are communicating with 10 bits per second. Okay. When you share the medium with respect to time, if the medium speed is also 10 bits per second, it is not possible. So the medium speed must be 4 into 10, 40 bits per second at least. 4 into 10 is equal to 40 bits per second. So the 40 bits per second is the speed of this medium. So what you are going to do is you are going to compress these 10 bits. So these 10 bits are going to generate in 1 second. Okay, you are going to get all the 10 bits in 1 second, and you are going to reduce the interval of each and every bit, okay, to 1/4, and you are going to pass them in just 1/4 second. So 10 bits which are generated in 1 second are going to transmitted in 1/4 of the second. Then the second user's S2's 10 bit is going to send in the second, let me just, so 10 bps, 10 bps, 10 bps, 10 bps, so 10 bits in 1 second. Here how you are transmitting is 10 bits in 1/4 second. So this is 10 bits in 1/4 second. So user 1 first 10 bits are sent in 1/4 second. So the demultiplexer is going to expand them and is going to deliver to the corresponding users. Okay, you will understand this more clearly. Just listen completely. Okay, so in time division multiplexing is a digital process, that previous two are analog process, remember. So this is a digital process, okay, where that allows several connection to share high bandwidth, the bandwidth of a link which is very higher compared to your individuals. Okay, so here instead of sharing a portion of the bandwidth, you are going to share it with respect to time as a set. Okay, so each connection is going to get a portion of time in the link. Okay, so we have two types of TDMs, time division multiplexing techniques. So one is synchronous time division multiplexing, another one is having two names, statistical time division multiplexing or asynchronous time division multiplexing. Okay, so as you can see in the synchronous time division multiplexing, so this diagram may give you better clarity on what's happening. So let's say the three users have data to send to to three different receivers. Okay, so on the sender side, the multiplexing side, the three users generated three blocks of information in 3 time intervals. Okay, so let's say t equal to 1, t equal to 1 second. So user 1 generated a block A1 in 1 second. In the same second, B1 generated. Okay, in the same second, C1 is generated. Now, these three things are combined together, okay, and will be transmitted in 1 second again. Okay, so how they are going to do is, whatever signal is received from A, that is A1, will be compressed into 1/3 of t, that means t/3, that means 1/3 second in this particular example. Now by doing so, you are going to get a frame which is having compressed signal. So compression is with respect to time. Let me show you one example. Let's say this is your signal. What you are going to do is you are going to reduce this interval. Okay, so what you are going to do is you are going to send this signal like this. You are going to reduce the interval. That means you are going to increase the speed. Okay, so by doing so, you reduced your signal which previously occupied 1 second to 1/3 seconds. So is it clear? What is meant by compressing the signal with respect to time? I repeat, is it clear how they are compressing the signal? So let's say the user 1 sent this signal, user 2 sent something like this, user 3 sent like this. So this is in the interval of t. Can someone tell me what is the meaning of this? This is 0 1 0 1 0 1 0. This is 0 0 0 1 1 1. This is 0 0 1 0 0 0. So they send these signals in the interval t. So what you did is, that is nothing but, let's say you are the multiplexer, you combined these signals. So what you did is, in the same interval, you represented them with shorter intervals. Okay, followed by okay. So let's say this is the same interval, that is t, where 1/3 of the interval is of user 1, that is 0 1 0 1 0 1, and the second part is user 2, and the third part is user 3. So this occupies t/3 seconds, remember. So that is how they are going to compress. So previously, let's say it took 1/8 second for each slot. Now it will take 1/24 for each slot. So they are going to reduce the slot interval. Okay. So by combining them into a single signal, as shown here, they are going to send them as one frame combined. So is it clear up to this particular part how they are going to combine the signals by compressing them with respect to time? Guys, respond in the chat box. Respond in the chat box. I repeat, is it clear how they are compressing the signal and combining them and getting into the same interval? 3 signals combined into a single interval. I see very few people responding. It's very important. TDM, you can say, the most important concept in this entire unit. You're going to get them in the exams for sure. You will get either explain one type of TDM or compare STM, synchronous TDM with statistical TDM. So you must be clear with these concepts. So now you understood how they are going to combine. Now how they are going to transmit defines whether you are going with synchronous TDM or asynchronous TDM. So as you can see here, every frame will be having slots, multiple slots. So the number of slots in each frame depends on how many users are here. So if the multiplexer is combining 10 people signal, the frame must have 10 slots. Okay, and every slot is reserved for one user. As you can see here, in every frame, first slot is reserved for user 1, that is A, and the second slot is reserved for user 2, that is B. The third slot is reserved for user C, that is user 3, that is C. So this order is going to be followed in each and every frame, so that on the receiving side, the receiver will just separate them with respect to their order and will deliver them with respect to their order. So A1 will be always in the beginning. So A1 will be delivered, that whatever is in the beginning will be delivered to the receiver of A. In the same way, the signal of B is in the middle always. So whatever is in the middle will be delivered to the receiver of B. In the same way, C. So this is sharing the medium. with respect to time, where the senders and the receiver side multiplexer and demultiplexer will be in sync. So let me show you one diagram. So this is the explanation as which I just explained. Okay, so let me go through these points one more time. So in synchronous TDM, each input connection has an allotment in the output even if it is not sending data. As you can see here, if for example B2 signal is not here, so at this time B has no signal, so what happens is this part will be left empty. So you are wasting bandwidth here. That you need to remember as one drawback of this synchronous TDM. So in synchronous TDM, each input connection has an allotment in output even if it is not sending data. Okay, so the data flow of each input connection is divided into units where each input occupies one input time slot. So this is one unit, this is second unit, this is third unit. So each input unit will be occupying one slot of output frame. Okay, now if an input time slot is t seconds, the output time slot will be t by n seconds. That I clearly said. So this is t seconds. Now since three users are combined, the output time slot of each unit will be 1 by 3. T, that is nothing but t by 3. So that is the fourth point. And the fifth point is the data rate of output link must be n times. So I said you generate, let's say combinedly everyone is generating 1000 bits per second. Now you need to send 3000 bits per second. A1 contains 1000 bits, A2 contains 1000 bits, A3 contains 1000 bits. You are just reducing the interval, but you are not eliminating number of bits. Okay, so these three signals combined means 3000 bits you need to send. That's the reason the data rate of the output link must be n times the data rate of each input connection. Okay, and in synchronous TDM, a round of data units from each input connection is collected into a frame. That means, as you can see here, first A1 will be collected, then B1, then C1, then combine them, send them, then A2, B2, C2, send them, A3, B3, C3. So round robin fashion they are going to follow. So as you can see, TDM can be visualized as two fast rotating switches, one on the multiplexing side and one on the other, that means on the demultiplexing side, which are rotating in reverse order but in sync. As you can see here, this switch must be rotated in this order, this switch will be rotated in this. So this is anti-clockwise, this is clockwise, so they must be in sync. So first it will go to A1, so it will send A1 signal, then it will go to A2, then B1, then it will send B1, then it will go to C and send C1. Now when they received, first A1 will be received, then this will move to B, so next B1 will be received, then C1 will be received. Then when the hand back moves to A, it will send A2, then it moves to B, send B2, then it moves to C, send C2. On the receiving side also, first the hand will move to A, so A2 will be received, then the hand will move to B, so B2 will be received, then the hand will move to C, C2 will be received. So this is how the sender side multiplexer and the receiver side multiplexer is running in sync with one another. That is the reason this entire process is called synchronous time division multiplexing. Okay, so this is about STDM, synchronous TDM. So the problems will be something like this. So figure shows a synchronous TDM with a data stream of each input and one data stream for the output. Okay, that means each input is generated 1 Mbps speed. Okay, so the question is the unit of data is 1 bit, find the input bit duration. సో ఇక్కడ 1 Mbps తో పంపిస్తున్నామంటే ఒక బిట్ కి ఎంత టైం పడుతుందమ్మా? ఇట్ ఈస్ క్లియర్, వెరీ క్లియర్. దెర్ ఈస్ 1 million bits, the speed is 1 Mbps, that is 1 million bits per second. So how many bits per, sorry, how many, so how many seconds will be taken by one bit? Can anyone tell me that? If the speed is 1 Mbps, how much time will be taken by each bit? 1 second. 1 Mbps means 1 million bits per second. Now I am asking, okay, how many seconds will be taken for one bit? 1 million bit ki 1 second amma. So 1 bit ki 1 by 1 million. Okay, what is meant by 1 by 1 million? 1 by 10 power 6, that is 10 power minus 6. What is 10 power minus 6? 1 microsecond for each bit. So the input bit duration is 1 microsecond. Now, what is the output bit duration? So output bit duration, if you recollect, if the input bit duration is t, if you have n users sharing the medium, the output bit duration is t by n. Now can anyone tell me what is the output bit duration? So how many users are there? How many users are using the mux? So 1 by 4 into 10 power minus 6, that is 0.25 microseconds. Okay. Now, what is the output bit rate? If each input is sending data with a rate of 1 Mbps, when there are 4 users, what is the output data rate? You can get this by doing the problem in two ways. If each user sending 1 Mbps, if there are 4 such users, the 4 signals must be combined and sent through the medium, that is 4 Mbps. This is one way of getting the answer. It is not 1 by 4 Mbps, it is 4 Mbps. The other way is, what is the output duration? 0.025 microseconds. So the bit, if you want to get the bit rate, you just need to perform the bit rate, it is equal to the data rate. So the data rate is equal to 1 by t. Okay, so 1 by t means 1 by 0.25 microseconds. So that is nothing but 4 Mbps. So either you do like this or like this, you are going to get the same answer, that is 4 Mbps. So that is 4 million bits per second. Now, what is the output frame rate? That means they are asking you to find out how many frames are sent for 1 second. I got one answer, 5H4, it is right. 5K6, it is wrong. See, one microseconds, 0.25 microsecond. This is 4 Mbps. This is bits per second. Now they're asking you to find out frame rate. How many frames are sent for 1 second? Now you can see this is also, you can solve using two approaches. So one approach is each input is generated with 1 Mbps speed, that is 1 million, let's say 10 power 6 bits per second. And as you can see in this diagram, each frame contains 1 bit from each user. Okay, that means, let's say in 1 second from 4 users, you are going to get 4 million bits, but you are sending 4 bits as one frame. Okay, so 4 bits one frame means 4 million bits by 4 is equal to 1 million frames. If you are sending 4 million bits per 1 second means you are sending 1 million frames for 1 second. So the output frame rate is 1 million frames per second. Okay, now the other way of doing the same question is very simple. So here there is no need to think all these things. You just need to concentrate on these two terms. So 1 Mbps for one input is 1 million bits per second. Now, how many bits are placed of each input in the frame? So 1 bit is placed. That means 1 million by 1 is equal to 1 million. So same answer, whatever you get. So there is two ways of doing the same question. Okay, so this is the third answer. So the first answer is 1 microsecond. The second answer is 0.25 microseconds. The third answer is 4 Mbps. The fourth answer is 1 million frames per second. So this is the answer for this particular question. So remember this. So these are the example problems. You can even go through the textbooks. See, when you see this color diagrams, normally the textbook is the second textbook, that is fluorescent textbook. If you are clearly seeing a black and white diagram, is you can see it is the Tannenbaum. So this is another example. 4 channels are multiplexed using TDM if each channel sends 100 bytes per second. So this, remember, bytes. Okay, so the another question is this one, the second question. So let me do this question. You can do the second question yourself. So each channel is sending 100 bytes per second, that is 100 into 8 bps, that is 800 bits per second, and we multiplex 1 byte per channel. That means the frame, how many channels are there? 4. The frame is going to get 4 slots where each slot will be occupying 1 byte. Okay, the frame travels on the link, the size of the frame, the duration of the frame, show the frame traveling on the link, the size of the frame, the duration of the frame rate, the bit rate. So total they are asking you to do 5 things. One is draw a diagram. So draw a diagram means, we saw a diagram previously, this one. So like this, they ask you to draw a diagram. Here they told you, just give me a minute. So they said 100 bytes per second and every slot contains 4 bytes. I mean 1 byte from each user. There are 4 people actually. There is one more person, D. So every frame contains A1, that is 1 byte, B1, that is 1 byte, C1, that is 1 byte, and D1, that is 1 byte. So you need to draw a diagram like this, where T is equal to how much? If you send 100 bits per second, you need to send 100 frames per second, because each frame carries 1 byte. Since you send 100 bytes per second, you need 100 frames per second. So one frame interval is 1 by 100. So t equal to 1 by 100, t by 3 equal to 1 by 300. Okay, here the t equal to 1 by 100. So the size of each interval, each a1 is 1 byte. So you are going to send 100 bytes per second. So this is how you are going to draw the diagram. For your understanding purpose, again I will draw the diagram here. Just clearly observe. So I'm first showing the frame traveling on the link. Okay, so the link is going to carry a frame where the frame will be having A1, B1, C1, D1, where the frame rate is equal to the individual data rate, that is 100 frames per second. So the interval will be 1 by 100, and this one is 1 by 300. So this is what you need to draw actually. Okay, so the size of the frame, so the size of the frame, if each one is 1 byte, the entire frame carries 4 bytes. So that is the size. The size of the frame is 4 bytes. So the duration of the frame is same as the duration of each individual byte. Okay, so that is 1 by 100. So the duration of frame is 1 by 100 seconds. The frame rate is, as you can see, each user is sending 100 bytes per second. Since your frame carries 1 byte per each frame, you can say the frame rate is 100 frames per second. And the bit rate of the link is, since you are sending 4 channels, it is 4 into 100, that is 400 bits per second. So like that you are going to deduct each and every asked answer. Okay, so that is how you solve this problem. Just to go through the second problem. So this is the second problem. A multiplexer combines 400 kbps channels using a time slot of 2 bits. I think I showed here, no. So a multiplexer combines 400 kbps channels. So again, the question is similar. So here, channel data rate is 100 into 10 power 3 bits per second using a time slot of 2 bits. Okay, that means every frame is going to carry 4 users information, where every slot is going to carry 2 bits. So this going to carry 2 bits, this going to carry 2 bits, this going to carry 2 bits, this going to carry 2 bits. So the total frame size is 8 bits. Okay, show the output with 4 arbitrary inputs. So you can say if user 1 is sending 0 0, user 2 is sending 0 1, user 3 is sending 1 1, user 4 is sending 0 1, the frame will be 0 0 1 0 1 1 1 0. So this is what they ask you to do. Okay, show the output with 4 arbitrary inputs. So these are the 4 arbitrary inputs, and this is the output frame. Okay, now what is the frame rate? This one is a little bit tricky, so observe, listen carefully. So your data is 100 into 10 power 3 bits per second. Now your frame is carrying 2 bits of each user. So if you divide this with 2, you will get frame rate. Previously, in my first example, 1 bit for each frame, so we divided it with 1. Now it is 2 bits for each frame from each user. So each user's individual data rate by number of bits in each frame, you will get the frame rate. So 100 by 2. So 50 into 10 power 3. So what is the frame rate means? It is 50 into 10 power 3 frames per second. Okay. Now, what is the frame duration? So frame duration will be same as, okay, frame duration will be same as the 2-bit duration of each individual user. So if you are sending 100 into 10 power 3 bits per second, that means for 1 second you are sending 1 by 10 power 5. So this is 1 bit. So how many bits are there in each frame? 2 bits. So into 2. So what is the frame size means? 2 into 1 by 10 power 5. That is nothing but 2 into 10 power minus 5 seconds. That is right, 20 microseconds. Okay. Now this is the third. Now what is the bit rate? Okay. So the bit rate on the outgoing link is 4 times the incoming links. So since you are using 4 users, I said 4 times. So 400 kbps will be the bit rate of the output. And the bit duration is, if you get this bit rate, if you simply do 1 by that bit rate, you will get the bit duration. Okay. So that is how you need to solve such questions. So these questions you will only able to solve if you practice more. So you can go through the textbook or you can go through the Google. You just need to give the right search word. So examples on synchronous TDM, example problems on synchronous TDM, you can search in the Google, or you can go through the Forozen textbook, the second textbook that I uploaded into the LMS, to go through these questions. Okay. So if you go through these more and more questions, you will be able to understand how actually these things are working. Okay. So this is about the synchronous TDM. Now let me finish the asynchronous TDM. So before going to the synchronous TDM, the disadvantages of synchronous TDM are, if a source does not have a data, if you look at this, in the second, so as you can see, there are 4 users, A, B, C, D. As you can see, B is not at all sending anything. That means the slot of B will be always empty. That means you are simply wasting the bandwidth, even though the bandwidth is available. Okay. And if you see here, the C is not having a data, so C slot is also empty. So that is what is the main disadvantage of synchronous TDM. So in synchronous TDM, if a user is not having any data, obviously you are going to lose some bandwidth. You are going to waste some bandwidth. And another disadvantage is disparity in input data rates. That means previously till now I told you, when you have 4 users are going to send with the same data rate, 1 Mbps, let's say 1 Mbps, 1 Mbps, 1 Mbps. But is it really all users will generate the data in the same data rate? Obviously not. So one user may generate data at 1 Mbps, the other user may generate data with 500 kbps, the third user may generate data in 4 Mbps speed, and the fourth user may generate data in 10 Mbps. When the users are not using the same data rate, then using the synchronous TDM will be very difficult. You need to do something else to use synchronous TDM in this scenario. So that is the second drawback, disparity in input data rates. So one disadvantage is source does not have a data to send, the corresponding slot will be empty, wasted. And the second thing is disparity in input data rate. So if all the inputs are following the same data rate, then there is no issue. But if the inputs are using different data rates, then there will be a lot of things to consider while going with synchronous TDM. So these are the 2 disadvantages. So if there is a disparity among the input data rate. Oh, so okay, I have one more topic in synchronous TDM. I think we will take one more class for this time division multiplexing, that is statistical time division multiplexing, and a few more examples. So since I am going to take one more class on this on tomorrow's session, so we'll get few more examples, more elaborate. I'm going to give you more examples in the next class. So just consider the theoretical concept in this class also. So synchronous TDM, if the data rates are not same, if that means the disparity is there, you are having three strategies to combine them efficiently and use synchronous TDM. So that is, one is multi-level multiplexing, okay, and okay, so the multi-level multiplexing is this one. So if a user, as you can see here, you have like say 5 users, where 3 users are sending at 40 kbps speed and 2 users can not send more than 20 kbps. So what you can do is, you can first combine these two people signal and you can generate a 40 kbps signal, and you can combine these 440 kbps signals into a single 4 into 4 160 kbps signal. So this is multi-level. First you are doing one level here, then you are doing another level, combining all these things. So this is called multi-level multiplexing. And the next one is multiple slot multiplexing. So here the data rate, more people are having higher data rate, only few people are having lower data rate. So in this scenario, we are doing like this. So multi-level. In multi-slot multiplexing, it is okay, the diagrams are altered. So this is multi-slot multiplexing, the third diagram. Okay, so in multi-slot multiplexing, let's say 3 users are having slow data rate, one user is having high data rate, that is double the data. So what you are going to do is, you are going to use a splitter, something like a demultiplexer, which is going to divide this 50 kbps into two 25 kbps. Okay, and you are going to provide 2 slots for one user, 3 slots for 3 users. That is the reason this is called multiple slot allocation. Okay, first one is multi-level. So multiplexing is done at 2 levels. Second one is multiple slot, where one is getting 2 slots, the other 3 users are getting 3 slots, each slot for them. So this is multiple slot. If you like, take the third one, pulse stuffing. So this pulse stuffing, if the users data rates are not multiples of one another. So as you can see here, 2 users are sending 50 kbps for each, and one user is sending 46 kbps. So you can't use multi level or you can't use multi slot. So what is the best option is pulse stuffing. So you are going to do you are going to add one additional device, so which is going to add few more bits to the data, and it is going to generate 50 kilobits per second. So this is pulse stuffing. So these are the three approaches. So these are the three different approaches where you can use to use different data rate signals to go with synchronous TDM. Okay, so remember, the implementation of TDM is not simple as FDM. So synchronous between multiplexer and demultiplexer is a major issue. Okay, so sender ఒక స్పీడ్ తో ఒక స్పీడ్ తో రొటేట్ అవుతూ, రిసీవర్ వేరే స్పీడ్ తో రొటేట్ అవుతుంది, ఆబ్వియస్లీ యూ విల్ మిస్ దట్ సింక్. సో యూ నీడ్ some mechanism to maintain this sync. So we are going to add synchronization bits along with your data bits to get synchronization among the multiplexer and demultiplexer. That is another wastage of bandwidth. సో మీరు ఎప్పుడైతే ఈ లాస్ట్ డయాగ్రామ్స్ లో మీరు చూసారమ్మా, సో ఈచ్ ఫ్రేమ్ ఈస్ క్యారీయింగ్ input of each user A1, B1, C1, D1. Along with that, here you are going to we are going to add few more additional bit which will tell the demultiplexer how to sync. So that is one more disadvantage of this particular synchronous TDM. So the other mechanism is statistical TDM. So statistical TDM I'm going to discuss in the next class. Just give me a minute. I want to confirm one thing. Yeah. So as you can see in statistical TDM, so this is a quite opposite of synchronous TDM. So in statistical TDM, you are going to remove the disadvantage that we discussed previously. So here you are not going to waste time in synchronous TDM. As you can look here, first A's data, B, next C, next D, next E. So as you can see here, first A1, B1, C1 is not there, so you are going to waste the slot. Then D1, then E1 is not there, so you are going to waste the slot. So you are going to send the data. Okay, so this is synchronization bit, additional bit. Now A2 is not there, so you are going to waste it. B2, C2 is not there, you are going to waste it. D2, E2. So this is how synchronous TDM is going to waste. Now if you look on the bottom diagram, your frame is not going to carry 5 slots. It is going to have less number of slots. So let's say 3. So A1, B1, D1 will be sent. Then in the second step, B2, D2, E2 will be sent. So the wastage will be removed. But since it is not following a proper order and not reserved each slots, you are going to provide address. So the first slot is for A, so you are going to put the address of A. Then the second slot is for B, so you are going to put the address B. So and the demultiplexing side, when he receives this signal A1 and A, he will know that okay, the address is A, so the data is for whoever is communicating. That means nothing but the A. When he sees this address, he will deliver this data to D. When he sees this address, he will deliver the data to D. So like that, we are going to waste part of the bandwidth to save majority of the wastage, to overcome this majority of the wastage. So if all people are not regularly communicating with one another, then obviously using statistical TDM is better option compared to synchronous TDM, where every frame is carrying only lesser number of slots compared to users. Even though you have 5 users, you will be only using 3 slots. So if ఇక్కడ మీకు ఒక క్వశ్చన్ రావచ్చమ్మా, ఒకవేళ ఒకే స్లాట్ లో నలుగురు దగ్గర లేకపోతే 5గురు దగ్గర డేటా ఉంది, A1, B1, C1, D1, E1 కూడా ఉంది అనుకోండి. వాట్ యు ఆర్ గోయింగ్ టు డూ ఇస్, ఇన్ ద ఫస్ట్ ఫ్రేమ్ యు ఆర్ గోయింగ్ టు సెండ్ A1, B1, C1. In the second frame you are going to send D1, E1 and A2. If A2 is not there, B2. So round robin fashion, you are going to move through the available frames, so available data, so that you will be sending only few of those data at a time. Okay, so this is statistical TDM. So why I explained the statistical TDM is up to this part is needed for attempting today's quiz. Okay, so try to attempt each and every question and each and every problem. Okay, so try to solve those problems and give the right answers. Even though you are not able to get the right answers, anyhow I am going to explain those problems in the next class. అలా అని చెప్పేసి జస్ట్ అటెంప్ట్ చేయకండి అమ్మా, ట్రై చేయండి ఆ ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ సాల్వ్ చేయడానికి. సో నెక్స్ట్ క్లాస్లో ఎప్పుడైతే నేను సేమ్ ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ ఫర్దర్ ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ చేస్తాను, యూ విల్ గెట్ మోర్ క్లారిటీ ఆన్ దీస్ కాన్సెప్ట్స్. Okay, so tomorrow's class also I am going to take on these multiplexing concept, since it is very very important. Okay, so I'm going to close the session with this part, introduction to statistical TDM. So I'm going to discuss the remaining parts in the coming class and more examples in the coming class. So if you have any queries, you can ask. If you have no queries, you can leave the session.